The Halo trilogy was a seminal moment in console shooters, going most of the way to getting the feel of shooters on consoles down, leaning into more story-heavy aspects, and basically developing single-handedly the Xbox brand and allowing it to continue on to this day. Bungie had a lot on their plate after Halo 3. Reach was in development, and Destiny was at the very least in the concept phase, as Easter egg references to it would start to pop up, including in ODST. And in the 3-year gap between Halo 3 and Halo Reach would come a small expansion-turned game, Halo 3 ODST, which despite the title takes place around Halo 2 during the destruction of New Mombasa. Halo 3 ODST would initially release in 2009 for the Xbox 360 and would later be a backwards compatible title for the later Xboxes, and really tried to separate itself from the Master Chief stories that had followed. Smaller in scope, and from the perspective of the regular soldiers in the UNSC, which shifts the power dynamic of the game slightly. ODST also lacked its own multiplayer, instead including Halo 3's and all of its DLC on a separate disc, all of that multiplayer's been offline for a good while. ODST plays a lot with the typical structure of Halo. It's got its dramatic set pieces and big battles, arguably some of the best in the series for their smaller scope, but it's also got quiet and calm lows that further emphasize the more personal story the game tells. The basic yet incredible shooting of Halo is intact, there are fantastic guns aplenty. I mean, the battle rifle got cut for whatever this is, but other than that, all the classics are here. The plasma pistol knocks down shields, the pistol's a very tiny sniper rifle, the actual sniper is a big sniper rifle. UNSC weapons are fairly rare as they've pulled out of New Mombasa, so there's lots of messing around with plasma pistols, plasma rifles, carbines. You're meant to feel pretty scrappy and weak, and part of that is on the enemies too. Being a Halo 2 offshoot, the primary threats are the brutes, their grunts, their jackals, and an occasional hunter. Elites don't even show up in this game, now that I think about it, although there are a few corpses laying around, and the brutes have been monumentally buffed. They loom over your standard-sized human protagonists, take ages to wipe their shields, and kill you fast. Even if they fail to kill you, the game has a health pack system like the first game did, so you need to scramble to find one to prepare for the next pile of brutes. The game has this air of tension all over it. Even small skirmishes feel like a challenge. You're not an 8-foot-tall super soldier who wicks off damage and wields heavy artillery barehanded. You're outgunned, outstrengthed, and outnumbered. This mismatching of power isn't the only unique element. Perhaps the most standout thing when you actually play the game is the structure. A film noir-inspired wraparound connects the levels via medium-sized hub worlds, a tiny open world full of narrow streets, a few building interiors, and combat arenas disguised as roads, parks, roundabouts. The open world is the abandoned remnants of New Mombasa. You're not getting a ton of variety here, although that's hardly a negative either. The dark city looming overhead gives way to the rookie looking for the rest of his squad 6 hours after the disaster of the initial drop. It's quiet, dark, so much so that the rookie gets detective vision that doubles as night vision, highlighting interesting stuff and enemies at the same time. Lonely, ignore that other guy, he's pretty quiet. Stroll through a mostly empty city, discovering hidden caches of more powerful weapons and vehicles, audio logs detailing background stories leading up to the destruction of New Mombasa, and the remnants of goings-ons from the other members of the squad's adventures that lead into flashbacks that serve as the game's levels. The flashbacks actually offer pretty impressive variety on their own too. Not quite the moody mystery stories of the wraparound, but covering a sniper mission, a dogfighting mission, big action set pieces, the traditional warthog getaway. You get a bit of every Halo flavor wedged in between these relaxed interludes that add a bit of character to the city and the squad. The constant variety keeps the game fresh while grounding it in a comfortable wraparound mystery. ODST was also the first game to introduce firefight, albeit in a very primitive form. It's Halo's own take on a horde mode. Reach would greatly expand this mode with unique maps and better segmented rounds and downtime. ODST's firefight is just an endless wall of spawns in some of the more iconic arenas from the campaign, with some minor tweaks here and there and a few more fences to keep you from leaving. It's certainly a fun enough game to justify some high score based gameplay, but it feels a bit too relentless and exhausting and a little bit repetitive in a confined space like this. This form of firefight showed a lot of promise for what the mode would eventually evolve into, but it's not exceptionally impressive on its own. ODST also happens to be a pre-Destiny 2 Bungie game. Top-notch visuals, audio, and music are a given. The guns are punchy and loud, nice to look at, and the music, goddamn. Especially in the hub world, just fantastic, melancholic tracks. A sense of noir-esque loneliness, ponderance even. All the more dramatic and exciting stuff is there too for the flashbacks and finale. Although there are songs like Rain that set this game so far apart from anything else Halo had ever had and probably ever will have. just so good. Bungie also has infamously amazing skyboxes and world design. New Mombasa feels like a real abandoned city, even if the layout of the hub can be a little repetitive. I can definitely understand the people who think it's too dark. It kinda is. And the detective vision is a bit of a duller on the world, but the quiet darkness and subtle lights are gorgeous when you take a moment to look around, as is all the stuff going on in the backgrounds, like the giant burning towers and buildings that you get to see from every angle as you travel around the city. Also, on more modern displays, the darkness is definitely not as awful as it would be on smaller and even CRT displays as many people were playing on back in the day. The whole game kind of has that vibe of working nights and driving the city at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. when you get off, with its eerie silence and darkness lit up by the remnants of the usual hustle and bustle of the daytime. The game does eventually give us bits and pieces of the city during the day, and does that fantastically well too. It's hard not to be in awe of the skyscraper's roofs, which extend into the distance endlessly across a cloudy sunset. The space elevator can be seen from almost every area of the map, initially an impressive monument to human ingenuity anchoring every inch of the map in one world, like Mario Sunshine, and its destruction is a stunning set piece, a hopeless symbol in the distance, and its burned remains equally anchor the world in hopelessness. Some levels are nothing but smoke and fire, some are exciting chases along the highway as the sun sets on New Mombasa, literally and metaphorically, as the Covenant fleet absolutely decimates whatever's left. There's really something to be said about how different one city can look as the world around it is forcibly morphed by the Covenant. Detail is another aspect that, well, you know, it's a Bungie game. Grunts and jackals, low-ranking guys, are easily demoralized when their brutes are killed and flee or kamikaze after. Brutes will also do last-second suicide charges when low on health or when stuck with a grenade. I guess that's a gameplay thing too. It adds some tension mix-up, but those little details always help to make Halo feel special. I also like the little bits of characterization the rookie gets, despite being a silent character, like the loving tap on the destroyed cannon that defended his squad, or his solemn curiosity in general. Master Chief never got much beyond badass and down bad for Cortana, so these little moments do add up. Cutscenes are a relatively minor part of ODST, but they are nice when they appear, usually at the beginning and end of a flashback. The opening pseudo-level in the drop pod is pretty incredible, honestly. The chaos of the battle over Earth and the perspective are fantastic, and some of the other cutscenes reach those heights too, like the explosion of this building, but the more low-key story leaves less room for the flashiness of the main series. I think I've spoken on the hub world more than enough. The hub world levels don't exactly mix things up a lot. They're nice breaks, yeah, but it's a fairly homogenized bunch. I love the cutscenes introducing each level, just brief security footage showing the very end of each level and how the object that leads into the flashback ended up where it did. A sniper hanging from a wire, a helmet embedded in a wall, a destroyed Gauss turret. The teasing makes seeing it all unfold so much more satisfying. Why is Buck played by Nathan Fillion? Not just the voice, but they also scanned his ass in. How does Nathan Fillion keep scoring like this? I kind of like him here, though. I can't lie. He's good as the character. He's just doing the Firefly thing again, but you know. Tayari Plaza is the normal level. I guess you kind of got to start there, even though the wraparound was already kind of tutorial-y. Buck is looking for Dare, his love interest and commanding officer, and gets to see most of the basic arsenal, the less weird stuff, and meets most of the enemies, grunts, brutes, jackals, a pair of hunters even, plus the new engineer, a hovering explosive worm. They don't actually come up often, but they essentially fly around certain arenas and explode when shot too much. They're kind of important later on. The level's good. It's the basic Halo romp through a daytime version of bits and pieces of Mombasa, and some of which you go through in the hub later. It introduces the everything well, but it's the level with the least going on around all that basic Halo goodness. Uplift Reserve goes in an entirely different direction. Intro to Vehicles 101. Warthogs are supplied for free, but the Ghosts, Wraiths, and Choppers in the park are free. You can just take them. I have 15 Ghosts. You also start with a Spartan Laser, the stupidest way to eliminate a tank in one hit. You cannot believe how fun it is to pull off, especially if you're in co-op and riding in the side of a vehicle. Driving in Halo has always been fun. The slipperiness, chaotic physics, awkward steering, it's the thing that makes GTA 4 fun. You're constantly forced to be adapting, getting in trouble. This is about as basic as the vehicle levels get, frankly, but it's a fun introduction and has the best moment in the game with the destruction of the space elevator at the end. Kazango Boulevard is the Scorpion level. I'm not really sure how to elaborate on that. It's like a basic Halo archetype at this point. You drive a tank around and shoot other tanks, piles of enemies. It's a tank mission. Of course it's fun. You get to blow things up, just cause mass casualties shot for shot. You really forget how many vehicle missions are in this game moment to moment though, like half of the actual levels are vehicle missions. Oni Alpha Site feels like the big finale to a different game. I don't remember a time Halo had ever really had a big, completely overwhelming force against two guys thing going on, sans the Flood who are kinda different. The bridge is just an endless wall of enemies as you're constantly pushed back against it and forced later to hold off the invasion on the site. It's not overly difficult or complex, you're given plenty of power weapons to play with, including the Gravity Hunter, turrets are plentiful, you get a sniper rifle, I think you can get like a rocket launcher at some point. But it is exciting to feel so on the back foot even though you have all these powerful weapons, especially since you're still usually given the high ground and allowed to play with cool toys to balance out the endless numbers, or seemingly endless numbers. Plus, there's two cool explosions throughout. It feels worthy of being the finale of some story, and vaguely resembles the way Reach was meant to feel at times, intentional or not. NMPD HQ is the sniper mission. I love how the upper skyline of this city is supposed to look, but also, where is this? There aren't any buildings this tall in the wraparound, or giant cranes. Maybe the wind blew the sniper rifle at the end really, really far. But I think they probably just wanted to make a really pretty skyline, and they did. A cloudy sunset from on high is a real nice change of pace from the city streets, and they also gave it the best music in the game by far, like holy shit. Sniper missions aren't usually my thing, but Halo enemies are smart enough to actually apply pressure. To some extent you need to keep moving and actually consider placement, and the arenas are fairly small. The sniper is still good in these more compact arenas, it cleans up big threats nicely, but it isn't something like a Call of Duty mission where you're standing 800 meters away, lining up shots and clicking the button. The level also goes weirdly off the rails at the end with a giant swarm of banshees swooping in and dropping off waves of enemies as you're given missile turrets and Spartan lasers and rocket launchers and basically every power weapon in the game. I think this is cool, however the missile turrets feel like they're maybe too good. They kinda just clean off the banshees, especially in co-op where one player can just main the banshee delete button. It's a lot more chaotic solo, although as it stands it is an incredible finale. I also like that Romeo gets stabbed in the chest by a brute, but this game is more lighthearted than the wraparound makes it seem like it should be. He's basically just fine and moderately sore. It's such a funny contrast with Reach. It also ends with the gang stealing a Phantom, one of the big transport ships that the Covenant use. That comes up later, and by later I mean in the next level after the wraparounds. Kikawani Station is the Banshee level. You get to have dogfights and fight a scarab. You can still go inside it and kill it the Halo 3 way if you want, but I don't know that was the intention. They're a little forced on the ground bits, like they're these giant blast doors that you need to open for the Banshee that open little human-sized doors, which is really funny. But the intention for the most part is pretty clearly to be flying around. The Banshee's a fun vehicle. I appreciate that the level is a bit cheese-proofed with the flooded underlayer preventing landing. It all works. It forces you to do the Banshee thing. The Banshee's fun to control. They give you lots of things to shoot, other Banshees, anti-air tanks. It has everything that a Banshee level needs, although Banshee levels do have the problem where just playing in the Banshee for like 15 straight minutes, not as cool as the tank. The Data Hive is the second level that's mostly traditional. Wow, this game plays so heavy into vehicles. I kinda forgot drones were even an enemy type in the series. They feel so infrequent and unimportant. Do you think they just saw the bug things in Resident Evil 4 and just had to do it? Is that why they're here? They're in Halo 2, maybe? Are they in Halo 2? I know they're in Halo 3. They're actually like the focus here and pretty fun for it. Between the catwalks and narrow hallways, you're forced to engage with them a whole lot and in disorienting ways. Precision weapons like pistols, the carbine, and the shotgun if that counts, one-shot them, but the former two don't efficiently clear the massive piles of them. It really is a shotgun level, which I always love to see. It's kind of impressive to see the drones actually do something. The story also kinda happens here. For the most part, ODST is a story about the gang getting back together. Each flashback kinda concludes with some member of the gang meeting up with the ever-growing pile, and this is the point where the rookie and Dare catch up with everyone else. It's like the Country Bears with more shooting and less Christopher Walken. The gang slowly assembles throughout the flashbacks and happen to pass overhead in their stolen vehicles to begin the level. You're immediately thrown into the level as the rookie with whatever weapons you were carrying with you in the last wraparounds, which kind of threw me off guard because I had like some very empty, shitty weapons that I just happened to stumble across, which is really exciting and cool. And you're also joined by Dare, who isn't dead and wants to protect and retrieve one of the engineers, one who hoarded and protected Oni's data and battle plans, as the engineers are actually slaves to the Covenant and unwilling Oops. Virgil the Engineer doesn't actually require that much to protect, thankfully, and sticking close to him gives you regenerating overshield, which instantly endears you to him. Plus he's cute in a way that, like a giant worm, fat, blob, explosive creature is. And him letting you take on the brute messes near the end is pretty fun. Getting Virgil out of Oni leads to a big warthog escape finale. Some traditions are basically eternal in this series. Coastal Highway is a highway, with a very nice sunrise and some cool background scenery of the Covenant forces terminating what's left of Mombasa. Hey, how do you know how a semi-truck horn works? Did Oni have data on that? Who taught you that? I think Nathan Fillion and Dare's reunion is cute, but man, Firefly is like the most pushed show that nobody ever watched, and this has just become Firefly. Maybe it always was, deep down. It's about half of the standard Warthog escape. The twist is that you're actually forced to interact with enemies unlike in every other game, as the large truck that Virgil and Dare are in has a health bar. It's not that tight even on Heroic, but I remember absolutely suffering on Legendary as they would take too many hits. There's a lot of opportunity to switch up vehicles, co-op makes the turret even more interesting. It does the Warthog escape thing with a lot less jumping over giant pits, and then pivots into a final standoff against piles of enemies until the rest of the gang catches up. I really like this, I don't know, Chinese theater thing going on. These are like horses, but it kind of looks like a Chinese theater thing. Well, it also does feel kind of out of place, I guess. Maybe it's just one of those things you can throw wherever and have it look cool because giant golden dragons are cool. Vegas, Eastern Africa, China. It's some raw gameplay to end on. Good old raw gameplay, and somehow the whole squad makes it out of the situation fine with a shitty one-liner as Mombasa is destroyed. I like the story of this game, but it feels like they kind of forgot the lonely, moody, atmospheric moments that really made it interesting to just become Firefly in the last few chapters. It's such an odd tonal split that the wraparound story is just so vastly divided from the, like, lighthearted, goofy, buddy cop adventure narrative that's going on in the main story. Both halves work individually, but it sort of feels like two different games were blended into one. Maybe the relatively short turnaround of ODST caused things to get a bit shaken up at some point. The ODST campaign is real strong though. It maybe leans a bit too much on vehicles, but I think even there they managed a good variety between fast-paced action, all combat, flashy escapes. Maybe a few more traditional levels would tie things together a bit more. Even the gun shooty levels that we get are, you know, broken up with like a sniper mission and a shotgun mission. Although you do get a good amount of that in the wraparound segments too, where there are just like standard enemy patrols that you get to fight. It doesn't entirely feel like enough, but I think the game is constantly mixing things up in a strong and interesting way by design. Halo 3 ODST might be my favorite Halo game. 2 and Reach definitely have a ton to love, but ODST is just so unique and interesting. Divided between being a goofy, Firefly-esque adventure romp and a quiet and moody noir story about a man piecing together a wild night. Now that I think of it, it's literally just a hangover with guns, and Firefly with guns. And the structure of the story is interesting, giving a constant feeling of excitement going into every level, although I was thinking that maybe it would have been a little more interesting if parts of the story were told more out of order, and the flashbacks provide tons of variety in perspective, character, tone, and gameplay. The game may be a slim and short version of Halo, but it's an immensely different and interesting take on the way these games are made. It's a bit sad that it lacks proper multiplayer, but it is essentially the definitive version of Halo 3's multiplayer, or was before the remasters, and Firefight is an interesting prototype, not quite there yet, but Firefight would in the next game be polished to perfection and become a fantastic horde mode. All of the wonderful aspects from the other Halo games, from the music to the visuals and skyboxes to the gameplay, are maintained, darkened, lightened, shining either way. It was an interesting experiment to bridge the time between Halo's peak of popularity and its swan song, a fantastic co-op game, of course, and just a wonderful game all around. In 2014, Halo the Master Chief Collection would release on Xbox One, launching with Halo Anniversary Edition, Halo 2 Anniversary Edition, Halo 3, and Halo 4. But a year later would see the addition of Halo 3 ODST, the campaign and Firefight anyway. The multiplayer was already there when the game launched. The collection and ODST would also end up on PC in 2019, which has made it very available and even lets you not buy the games you don't want, so you can save a few dollars by not getting 4 basically, which is nice I guess. To keep it nice and brief, it seems that very little was done with ODST. Resolution was bumped up a bit, Firefight was segregated to a different menu option, a few accessibility options like speech to text and colorblind mode were added, but it's more or less the same experience as the original. It would be more impressive if that original experience wasn't already backwards compatible, I must say. Although honestly, this version does have online that's not dead, so that's cool. While the game was available for free for a while when the collection first got it added to it as DLC, it now costs $5 whole. Although the entire collection frequently goes on sale, so it's not likely to even cost that. And frankly, it really is just the better version in every way for still having online co-op and firefights. There's really no reason not to go for this version anyway. Same great game, still alive online. I assume that there's still people online. Halo people were always weird, but I'm sure you can join a Discord or something. And it's very slightly nicer looking too. Not a whole ton, they didn't touch it up as much as the other games, but you know, that's an upside.